Welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on WakeUpCallDT.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT. Hope you're all having yourselves a tremendous morning this morning as we're here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, except for in holiday situations, and that's exactly where we are at this week. We have the Thanksgiving holiday obviously coming up this Thursday, and that has changed our schedule. Not much, but just a little bit, just a tiny bit here, as we will obviously be off for the Thanksgiving holiday. And with that being stated, Papa Joe, who is with us every Thursday, is going to be with us today instead of Thursday, with the fact that we are off for Thanksgiving. So everything else is staying status quo. We're here with you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday morning from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time inside of the Cafe Kubal studios on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt and on wakeupcalldt.com, where you're listening to the show and where you're watching on Facebook Live on facebook.com/livenowdt. So we're very happy to have you here and be hanging out with you and changing things up just a little bit, tweaking things because of this Thursday being a day where we will be off. And, of course, I will be cooking my bird and the stuffing and the sweet potatoes and the broccoli casserole and the pumpkin pie and so on and so forth. And you will be doing your thing as well. So with that being said, we have a fantastic show set up for you here today. And Papa Joe is going to be joining us momentarily on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets life. Papa Joe will be with us inside of Ma and Pa's Popcorn.com's What's Poppin'. He'll be joining us and followed and from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And then he'll be followed by Ryan Blackwell. Ryan Blackwell from Syracuse Orange men's basketball history, the head coach of Boeheim's Army, and the Liverpool Warriors boys basketball head coach here in our community of Central New York. And you know that I do my monthly show with Liverpool Athletics at Avicoli's on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York. So, plenty to talk about with Ryan Blackwell, being a head coach during these tough times, how basketball maybe can create some normalcy in his life as he utilized it before to get away and focus. Does he still feel that during Corona? We'll talk about coronavirus. We'll talk about navigating that as a coach. We'll talk about Syracuse basketball, Jim Boeheim, as well as, everything, hopeful as we move forward here in the sports world and in life in general. And he'll put me on the hot seat in rapid fire. So, a lot of great stuff coming up with my guy Ryan Blackwell at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time, immediately following Papa Joe here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. So with that being stated, let's bring in the man of the hour here 3 days earlier to speak on the college football and NFL week that has been up to this point. There's a lot of great stuff to talk about. There's a lot of interesting things to get to, and I am more than happy, as always, to celebrate being on the air with PJ. PJ, let's bring him in. Papa Joe, how are we doing today?
What's up, kid? What's up? Meatball, say hello.
I love that. Meatball, say hello. What's up? So that's awesome. That's good stuff here. How are you doing this morning on a Monday? I know we're used to having you on for Thursday, but we had to ad lib a little bit because your guys got to cook that bird on Thursday morning. So how you doing?
Good. Okay, I got 3 days early. It doesn't make any difference to me. I can talk. I have plenty to talk about. Unfortunately, it's not good. A lot of it's not good, but
yeah. So, I mean, we got a lot of things to get into, a lot of things to break down here with PJ, and always excited to have the conversation. So let's jump right into that conversation and, speak on what's going on here with college football. We'll go there first. And in the college football ranks, the college football world, things are good for some, not great for others. Obviously, one of those teams where it's not great is the Syracuse Orange. It's not great by any stretch of the imagination. This has been a pretty ridiculous ride this year, and Syracuse is in a position right now where they're going nowhere fast. And I got to ask you, PJ, what your thoughts are as Syracuse takes a 30-0 loss to the Louisville Cardinals on the road. I will preface by making mention once again that Syracuse, since Louisville joined the ACC in 2014, and they became foes with one another, Syracuse has not defeated Louisville as a foe in the ACC, as a conference opponent, only but once, and that happened once since 2014. So they only have one win against Louisville as a conference opponent. It's never happened on the road at Louisville. They were 0-3 going into this weekend at Louisville. They allowed over 40 points a game at Louisville in those 3 games. And not only did they allow over 40 points a game, they lost by double digits. So the stage was set that every other year since 2014, they play at Louisville. The issue is Louisville has different head coach now. They've had different quarterbacks, multiple personnel, offensive linemen, running backs, and whatnot. And yet somehow, some way, they continue to embarrass Syracuse, even though it's every couple years and things change. Well, this year, they didn't allow 40 points. But they lost by their largest margin of defeat in any of the games that they played since joining the ACC and Louisville joining the ACC, losing by 30 points, 30-0. It's the first time Louisville has shut out Syracuse as an ACC opponent. So all of this is bad news. All of this sounds terrible. The stage that was set up was ugly, and it got even uglier as they failed to score one single point on the field at Louisville. Papa Joe, with that being the preface, what's the point you would like to make?
Daniel, there is no point that could possibly be made that's any good. I mean, I didn't catch the game. I couldn't get it down here, but I remember Louisville playing Florida State a couple weeks ago, and they looked pretty potent there. They looked better than I think they were 2-5 at that time, or 2-4, something like that. They looked better than that. And unfortunately, they didn't have to be too good to beat a really hapless Syracuse team. I'm sorry for it. I'm sorry for the fans up there. I'm sorry for the alumni. We've spoke on this item several times, and I've encouraged you to give some people your thoughts and see if there is any changes in particular that need to be made. I don't see how you come back from something like this. This was awful. I don't even remember them getting 100 total yards on offense. So unfortunately, it's a big black eye for the school, and I hate to see it.
Yeah, Syracuse has been in this ugly, really since the beginning of the season. There was hope, there was some hope, there was some positivity, there was the hey, it's a new year, we'll see what they could do, and ultimately nothing good came out of it. And they're a team that was not playing well that got worse. They didn't capitalize off their turnovers against North Carolina. They didn't capitalize off the turnovers that they achieved against Pittsburgh. They defeated Georgia Tech in the reopening of the Dome. The Dome's only opened twice, December of 1980 and September 26, 2020, and I was there for that. So it was great to see it. It was great to see the Dome reopen. It was great to be a part of history. It was great to see a win. But after that, really nothing's happened. They've lost all their games since then. They're 1-8 on the season. They've lost 6 games in a row. They looked okay against Boston College, but beyond that, they've looked absolutely, undeniably terrible. They gave up 413 yards. They gained. This is what they've played up against running backs that have gained over 160 yards on them. One player. They played up against quarterbacks that have gained more yards against them. They played up against a running back that they allowed 180 yards to. And I want to paint that picture for you. Because Syracuse in the game against Louisville had 137 yards. Not by their quarterback, not by their wide receiver, not by their running back. Total. In 60 minutes of gameplay, Syracuse had 137 yards on offense. They're passing 45 yards. They're rushing 92 yards. That's all they've had. 3 turnovers. They lost 2 of their fumbles and threw an interception. Syracuse has had a horrible, horrible record this year of third downs. In this game, they were 1 for 10. That's 10%. In this game, the entire season, they've had a horrible, horrible time of possession. In this game, their time of possession, 18 minutes. 18 minutes and 14 seconds. That's it. So for 18 minutes and 14 seconds, they had the ball, which is awful. Papa Joe, paint a picture here. 1 for 10 on third down. Not even 20 minutes do they have with the ball. It's only gotten progressively worse from where it already was.
Well, obviously it's coaching, a lot to do with coaching, but, these kids, remember, they're still kids, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, young men, and they need to be coached. They need to be coached up really big. And I don't understand why the Syracuse staff can't see this or didn't see this coming. I mean, you really got to push your kids. I mean, you got to play with some pride. I mean, just because you're down 7-0 or 10-0 or 14-0 doesn't mean you give it in. It seems like, from what I'm reading and what you're talking about, that the kids just airmailed it in. I mean, good football teams can come back from something like this, but Syracuse don't. I give you a good example. When Joe and I last weekend were watching Georgia, Florida, and Georgia flew off the handle, scored 14 points within 5 minutes. Now, Florida may be a good team, but those kids, they could have airmailed it in.
Yeah.
They wound up scoring 31 consecutive points after that. So somehow they reached down and got it. Somehow the coaches told them. But in your case up there, no one is telling anyone anything. I can't see. I can't see this going much farther. I can't see the administration tolerating this if they care about their sports programs. I mean, if Jim Boeheim lost 10 games in a row or 12 games in a row, maybe that would be a little different. But not football. I mean, this is terrible, and it's awful. I feel for the kids. I feel for the kids especially. And, I feel for the recruits, too. Here's the recruits. They got a decent class, I don't know, in the late 40s or early 30s or late 30s, something like that. A bunch of 3-stars, but that's been Dino's forte. If these kids are watching these games and they're reading these games,
yeah,
and they're thinking, why the hell do I want to go to Syracuse when they just lost 8 in a row or 7 in a row, whatever it is? I mean, it's a trickle-down effect. It starts with the athletic director, all the way down to the staff, the coaches, and all the way down to the players, and finally the recruits. Don't be surprised if some of the recruits just renege and say, I can't do this.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's my concern that I have right now. With this being a free year, you can leave. With this being a free year, you can go anywhere you want. You could travel about the country. What do they say on Capital One? You're free to move about the country. That's exactly what we have here at Syracuse. They can go wherever they want to go. If somebody wants to leave this team and transfer somebody somewhere else, they can. If the recruits don't want to come here, always in recruiting, they verbally committed. So they're free to do what they want to do as well. I mean, Syracuse, if people don't like the writing on the wall, Syracuse could lose 2 guys. They could lose 30. You know what I mean? The class could say, you know what, we're not doing this. And I think the reality of it all is not only can the recruits say that, but, this year, because of that free year to move and go wherever you want to go, you can lose anybody. Quarterbacks could say, I've had enough. Running backs, offensive linemen could say, I've had enough. I think we're going to see some losses. I think we're going to see some people move out of this thing. I don't understand how Dino can sell it. That's the issue, is how do you sell 1-8, probably 1-10? How do you sell that the program had 1 good year in 5 years? How do you sell that they went to 1 bowl game in 5 years? And that, a lot of that had to do with the fact that Eric Dungy is just a beast. And he wasn't the only guy on the team, and I'm not trying to take away from anybody. I just don't think if Eric Dungy's not your quarterback a couple of years ago on the 10-3 season, I don't know how you get anywhere. So it's just one of those things where I don't know how Dino sells this. I don't know how he tells us it's going to get better, it's going to turn around. It's like being in a relationship that keeps banging into a wall, and it's like, okay, but it's not getting better. It's not turning around. And I think that that's the biggest frustration of them all. is that I try to be positive, find the silver lining. I like Cooper Lutz's play. I like Sean Tucker's play. I like some things Jacoby and Morgan has done. I like Mikel Jones's play. I like how he's led. I like, the DBs and what they've done, and Garrett Williams and Rob Hanna and, Fatu Melifonwu. I'm a big fan of Josh Black and Aaron Service, Nolan Cooney, Andre Schmidt. There's a lot of good on here. Nykeem Johnson. I'm happy that Taj Harris is, doing his thing and fighting for what he wants out there. And so, I'm looking at Anthony Queeley. So there's all, individually I can name a bunch of players, but the collective is not better. And whether it's recruiting, whether it's missing out on recruits locally and not caring, or it's, who you're recruiting, or it's, the scheming or timeouts and time management or coaching during a game, whatever it is, it falls on Dino. And there's just no answer right now. And I think that's the biggest frustration is there's really nothing that anybody can say, PJ, that makes any sense at this point.
No, it's terrible. Let's hope that the powers that be can come together, and maybe they need to reevaluate the entire program. You certainly need another coach, I would think, and the position coaches. In a situation like this where things are so bad and you've really lost the support of all your locals, not all of your locals, but a lot of your locals.
Yeah.
It's easier to just say, I said, we'll buy you out. We're going to release your entire staff. A new coach is coming in here. He's going to start all over again, and we'll hope good luck in the future. But best you can do.
Well, and the thing is the number that's been floating around, but not, is $17 million, and his buyout's $17 million, and people up here are saying they'll never buy him out. That's too expensive. It's too much. There's no way they could do it. PJ, you come from the SEC. You're laughing when you hear something like that. $17 million's like $4 in the South. So, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? So, like, buying somebody out, I honestly believe when you see something like that, buying somebody out at $17 million, that's chump change. I'm pretty confident that Nick Saban's buyout is somewhere near or over $60 million, and Jimbo Fisher's is up there too. So when you hear $17 million, being a guy who's down there with the Gators and, the SEC and whatnot, $17 million to me is like, it's like, hey, you know what? When we go out today, I'll buy you lunch.
That's true. Yeah, $17 million is not a lot down here. You're right. Especially even FSU when they had to buy out Willie Taggart there. Pretty hefty sum. Your school is a private university, and a lot of people, their entry fees pay for a lot of the bills up there. I don't know if your school can afford to buy Dino out of $17 million. They just may say, okay, well, Dino, next year let's do a little bit better and keep you. I'm not sure the alumni would like that. Certainly your fans aren't going to like that.
Yeah.
But there has to be some light at the end of the tunnel. I'd like to see the kids play for themselves the last couple of games, and then see if they can come up with something. That's all. You can't beat it too much. It is what it is. You got to keep your nose to the grindstone up there, Daniel. You got to keep your ears open and find out what if there's any kind of talk whatsoever. I don't know if you have any alumni that are very important. Well, your dad's an SU alumni, right?
Yeah.
He should know what's going on up there. Find out from the alumni, see what's happening.
Well, and the thing is, and the frustrating part is, it'd be easy to go, you just ask the football alumni, but they've shut the door on a lot of them, so it's they can't even tell you what's going on in the program that they played in and that they love. So it's tough. It's, but, my hope is that it gets better. My hope is that Dino figures it out, and if he's going to stay here, that he starts recruiting locally and he starts opening the door to the alumni. Those are two areas that seem easy and pretty much effortless, and they would make the most sense in being successful. So I just hope that he stays open-minded. I want him to do well. I want him to succeed. I feel like we have a good relationship. I hope the best for him all the time, and I pray the best for him, so I just hope that things work out. With that being said, we'll move on to our next game here, Ohio State and Indiana. We both picked Indiana. We thought Indiana at 4-0 that they could do it. Ohio State was 3-0 with a game that got postponed or canceled against Maryland. So Ohio State, Indiana, they face off against each other. Indiana pushes Ohio State to the brink. Even though Indiana didn't win this game, dang it felt good. 42-35, they lose by a touchdown. They make Ohio State give them all they got. And that makes me feel, even though they lost, it makes me feel even better about Indiana, that the best team in the Big Ten had to go all the way to the end and push with everything that they had just to get out of there alive. That makes me feel really good about Indiana.
Yes, I did happen to catch a lot of that game. One thing that surprised me about the Indiana game plan was that they didn't run the ball as well as they usually do. And I was just thinking of your man from Syracuse there, who's been a really good player for them for several years now. They didn't use that. Instead, they threw the ball. This kid Penix. The first time I saw him throw a couple of passes, I said, God, this guy's awful. Where'd he come from? All of a sudden, he starts making passes, and then the more I watch, and the yards keep totaling up, and he keeps throwing touchdowns. And I'll tell you one thing: Ohio State they may have lost a shot to get into the playoff with that. This was not a good effort on their part. They should have known that Indiana was going to come in and pin their ears back and give them everything they got. Indiana's a really good football team. Not an elite football team, but a good football team. And another thing, too, is Justin Fields, to me, is no longer a Heisman Trophy candidate after that performance. Sure, he threw for 300 yards and ran for 70 or something, but he also threw 3 interceptions. Players that play for the Heisman Trophy and play on really good teams don't throw 3 interceptions.
Yeah, and you bring up a point there, like who is the Heisman frontrunner type of feel to it, and Trevor Lawrence has not been out there and whatnot, and so there's a lot to be said about that. And Indiana, I give them a lot of credit. I think they're fantastic. I love watching Tom Allen. I'm so happy for him. I hope his son, who plays linebacker on the team, who I hope he heals. I hope he gets better, and that things will work out in his favor on and off the field. And God bless to him as always. But this has been a fantastic season. I was really pumped because there's guys on the team that I know, Watt Fillier, as well as Tom Allen and Stevie Scott. But, having that connection and knowing those guys and then having the local connection, especially with Stevie, that all meant something to me. But when I watch this team now, I'm just this is a really fantastic year for Indiana. And there's a lot of different things that they're going to be able to do, and they can push. And I hope that they continue to give them everything that they got. And I hope that this is the only loss that they have all season, because Indiana has been a true, amazing thing. And it goes to show. Indiana, you think of Syracuse in the past, you used to think football and basketball. Now you just think basketball. When you think about Indiana, you think about Bobby Knight and basketball, and that's it. Well, now they got this good old football team, which is awesome. And so I think, PJ, if for nothing else, what Indiana has shown us is they are not going to back down to anybody. They are not going to go quietly into the night. They don't care what your record is. They don't care what your history is. They don't care what people think of them. They just care how they play. And I give them a ton of credit for how they handled themselves, how they played. This game was on the road, and it was 42-35. It was a fantastic game for them. I'm super stoked about it. I really much appreciate what they do. And they're playing Maryland, at Wisconsin, and Purdue. So if they play the way that they've been playing, they should end this season, the regular season, 7-1. That's how Indiana should do it. So, I'm looking at something really, really big for them at the end of all of this. I would love for them to have a door into the college football playoff, but I know that they would have to go undefeated, and they would have had to defeat Ohio State. But, you look at what they were able to do. Almost 500 yards overall. Rushing, they got nothing, like Hugh said. But almost 500 yards all came from passing, and they were able to hang with Ohio State. So, I see them going 7-1, arguably, speaking on Indiana. And I think that is a great approach to what I would venture to believe is going to be a New Year's Six bowl game.
Definitely. Oh, yeah, they're definitely eligible for that. You mentioned they got to play Wisconsin. My bros up there are hurting this weekend. They really got outplayed by Northwestern. And Indiana, Wisconsin's going to be a heck of a ball game.
Yeah.
In the Wisconsin game, I watched a little bit of that, too. I was impressed with Northwestern. playing with a freshman quarterback, Mertz. He looked good, threw for 230 yards. But, hey, the end of the deal is that they scored more points than you did, Wisconsin. So my bros are a little upset, but things will be better in Milwaukee. Don't worry about it. Northwestern's a power, let me tell you. And if I remember right, the coach of Northwestern is also a ball player, an alumni ball player. Pat Fitzgerald, that's who it is. I think he played tight end or something like that for Northwestern years ago. So there's a good story of a player coming back. You know, I don't even know if he played pro, but he's coaching for his alma mater, and they put up a super effort against a very, very difficult Wisconsin team.
Yeah, and if you look back at him, you're mentioning Pat Fitzgerald of Northwestern, the head coach of the team. He was a linebacker and a slot receiver for Northwestern. So there is that alumni connection that he has, and Northwestern has done a fantastic job. Northwestern defeating, and we'll go to that game next, PJ. Northwestern defeating Wisconsin. Mind you, going into this game, Northwestern was ranked 19th in the nation. Wisconsin was ranked in the top 10. Again, I don't know why. Wisconsin always gets ranked really high, and year by year, and this is no knock on, like, I'm not trying to knock them. I just don't see it. Like, I don't see why their ranking is so high. And in this game, it was the same. I'm like, why is this a top 10 team right now? So Northwestern defeated them at home 17-7. How about this? Not only did Northwestern beat Wisconsin, which people think is like unheard of and this is impossible, but it's not, because obviously look what happened. Not only did they defeat them 17-7, they shut out Wisconsin for the last 3 quarters of the game. Wisconsin scored 7, Northwestern scored 7 in the first quarter. Northwestern did not allow a single point from Wisconsin for the final 45 minutes of the game, PJ. That, to me, we look at the win, and that's great, but we look deeper into the win and how compelling it is that they shut out Wisconsin for 3 quarters to end the game.
Well, true. I'm not sure how Northwestern matches up with some of the elite teams in the country or even in the league with Ohio State. I'm not sure that their talent pool is as big as Ohio State, so don't be surprised if Ohio State handles them pretty easily if they do play them. I'm not sure they do, but Northwestern showed us something, and I'm very pleased for them. Not happy for my bros, but my bros will be all right. They'll get a good bowl game somewhere.
Yeah, as we look at it right now, Northwestern is 5-0 with wins over Maryland, at Iowa, Nebraska, at Purdue, and Wisconsin. They'll be at Michigan State, at Minnesota, and home against Illinois. They do not play Ohio State in the regular season. So, with Michigan State being all over the place, Minnesota being an okay team, and Illinois being okay, Northwestern could arguably end their regular season 8-0. So we'd be looking at an 8-0 Northwestern team and a 7-1 Indiana team, Papa Joe. How crazy is that for you to hear something like that?
That's good. Good for the Big Ten. I really wanted to see some parity up there. I'm not a Big Ten guy, obviously. I mean, I can only root from what I know and what I've seen over the years. But the Big Ten has always been sort of a half a step behind the big schools in terms of recruiting and the speed on the field. So, the Big Ten is going to show themselves this year. They're going to have at least 3 really good teams in a bowl game and maybe some other ones. So Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Indiana, they should make the Big Ten proud. So maybe I'm not a player hater by all means, but
yeah,
let's hope that the rest of the nation can see how good the Big Ten is doing this year.
Yeah, it's the hopes that we will see something like that. And with Papa Joe, we continue on our conversation here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, and so happy to be here with you. Cafe Kubal with 5 locations around central New York, inside of Galasanos Children's Hospital, as well as on 3501 James Street, 401 South Salina Street, 324 West Water Street, and their newest location on 208 North Townsend Street, with one being built out in Manlius as well, which looks absolutely positively fantastic. I've taken some pictures. Well, I've shared some pictures of it, I should say, with you, and it looks immaculate. And I will share those again for those of you that maybe haven't seen them. It looks absolutely incredible. Very, very excited. Their mobile cafe will come to your place of business or your neighborhood, and they have local delivery that will come straight to your doorstep, and you do not have to pay a delivery fee if you live in Onondaga County. You can get more information on all of that by going to wakeupcalldt.com to the Central New York tab and clicking on Cafe Kubal. There's a button to fill out the mobile cafe form to have them come to you, and there's a button to click on for local delivery for you to make your order today. So make sure you do that and get the DT Special Pumpkin Spice Chai. I get mine with almond milk. You can get yours today by going to any of their locations. So, with that being said, PJ and I continue our conversation about what's the goings-on of college football this past week. So, PJ, the next one on the docket for us to really go to here right now would be for us to have a conversation on your Florida Gators over Vanderbilt 38-17. No surprise, but I know you said, they didn't give up. They could have mailed it in. They decided not to do that. What are your thoughts on how your team played overall, and did you learn anything from a game against Vanderbilt?
They didn't play their best game, quite obviously. For some reason, they weren't up. Again, that's coaching. Dan Mullen has to really look at these kids are high-strung. I mean, down here especially. I mean, these kids should be ready to rock and roll the whole time. But you're going to visit a Vanderbilt team in an empty stadium and a team that hasn't won a game. I mean, it's hard to get up for a game like that. Then all of a sudden they run down the field and they score a touchdown inside of 3.5 minutes, and Florida's behind 7-0. Well, obviously the talent is the level is between high and low. I mean, Vanderbilt's certainly not going to out recruit anyone for any sport. Maybe basketball, but not football. I mean, Florida just has too many athletes, and Trask is for as good as he's been over the season. He didn't make a lot of throws that he normally makes. I mean, the guy was 26 out of 35 and 380 something yards. I mean, to me that's okay, but to him it's not okay. And Mullen said so. He said, he says we missed a lot of reads out there, and he wasn't as sharp as he should have been. Threw the ball in the ground a few times, overshot some receivers. I mean, he's not prone to make mistakes, and hopefully he doesn't. But, to me, after watching him, even on an off day like that, against a team they really should have whooped up on, and the difference here, let me tell you the difference between two teams that are not very good and two teams that are really good. You got Florida versus Vanderbilt, and they only beat them 38-17, and really looked like they were sleepwalking sometimes. Then you got Alabama, Kentucky. Alabama beats the hell out of Kentucky 63-3. That's the way you're supposed to beat the teams in the SEC that you're supposed to win. That's what you're supposed to do. But anyway, to make a long story short about their efforts, Trask to me has now moved to the forefront of the Heisman Trophy race. I think Mac Jones looked pretty good from Alabama. And Justin Fields, you heard me say that about him. I think he's got some problems. Trevor Lawrence hasn't played the poor guy. They can't get him on the field. That's another story. The FSU guys wimping out at him. But, Trask is everything's laid out for him. All he's got to do is just do what he's doing. Florida wins out the rest of the season. The only problem I have with the way Florida's playing right now is that they don't have a sense of urgency on defense. I mean, look, they got some serious kids on defense. These kids are all some 4 and 5 stars. I mean, they shouldn't be sleepwalking like this. If you go into Alabama, if you play Alabama in the SEC championship team, you're going to get your ass handed to them. Period. That's what's going to happen. You're not going to be able to come back against an Alabama team, not like a Vanderbilt or Georgia or someone else. You're going to get your ass handed to you. So we'll see what Coach Mullen, after the game, I caught it on the SEC network. Man, he was just reaming out his team. He just was not happy with any phase. I mean, here the guy wins by 3 touchdowns. I mean, and his talent level is superior to Vanderbilt, and he's not happy. Yeah. Well, he's happy, and he's telling the kids he's not happy. Listen, you guys dropped the ball out there a few times. You weren't anxious on defense. You should have been getting after him a little bit. They've had a problem with defense all year long, and if they don't rectify it by the time Alabama comes rolling in, I'm not so sure that they'll be able to beat Alabama. Florida has to play Tennessee yet and Kentucky, and those are both, they're not pushovers by any means. Kentucky is a better team than what they showed against Alabama. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, I think, and I said this a couple years ago, that I believe, I've said it in recent history, that I believe you give Dan Mullen 2 to 3 years, he's going to make this team, capable. He's going to get them to that point where they're going to be vying for the college football playoff. And, this season arguably can be the season for them. This could be the season where they find a spot and they sneak their way into this thing because, look at what they've done up to this point. Now they're ranked in the top 6 in the nation, and we look at, what they've done in their record. They defeated Mississippi at Ole Miss, defeated South Carolina at home. They lost by 3 to Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher, which is a big win for Jimbo, which probably buys him a couple days at Texas A&M, by maybe a season, or two. And then Missouri and Georgia, they defeated them at home, Arkansas at home, and at Vanderbilt. So we look at that. They're 6-1 on the east side of it. They pretender, in your opinion, PJ.
Boy, you got me thinking on it. This is not one of the bigger conferences. Of course, the teams I think are below the ones that we just briefly did talking about. Cincinnati is a fine team. I caught some of the game. Their quarterback almost total 400 yards passing and running. They certainly are. They play fast. I like that. Really fast. But you bring up a sensitive subject when it comes to this league, especially when UCF was undefeated back then, and they tried to push their way into the playoff. Daniel, it's not going to happen. I just don't see it happening. I give them credit. I think it's a wonderful situation. They're just not a top caliber school when it comes to these other big teams. Maybe they can win a game here or there, but I just don't see that. But with that being said, they're going to get a good bowl game. They're going to get a good bowl game against a top ranked team, so they can say, well, look, if we beat this guy, we told you so that we could be in the playoff. But yeah. I don't see that happening. They're a wonderful team, well coached, certainly. UCF's no slouch either. I enjoy watching them play. Ever since what's your name? Scott Frost was there, right? Scott Frost was there, right?
Yep.
Yeah. When he went undefeated, but it's just not. It's not the same kind of football, Daniel. I'm afraid not. Not the same kind of football.
Well, Cincinnati's doing their thing. I think that they have a right to be looked at. UCF was left out of it the year that they were forced to play Auburn in the New Year's Six Bowl, and when they defeated Auburn, they turned around and said, okay, well, Auburn is the only team that year to defeat Georgia and Alabama. Georgia and Alabama were playing in the college football playoff championship game, so they were saying, we defeated the team that defeated the teams that are playing in the nation's top game in the national championship, so why don't we deserve to be there? They had a point. And so now Cincinnati is looking to make their point, and ultimately they're just trying to knock the door down. That is what they're doing. This should tell you something about the American. It's not just UCF. It's UCF. It's Cincinnati. It's, this year Tulsa. Tulsa, I've been saying for the last couple of years, Philip Montgomery is banging on the door. They're not closing out the games, but they're getting there. They're pushing teams in non-conference play that are ranked teams to the brink. They did that to Oklahoma State this year. So they're pushing teams to the edge. They were pushing teams in the Conference of the American to the edge. They just weren't getting the win at the end. But darn it, were they not playing until, they were forcing you to play overtime against them. They were pushing you all the way to the final seconds, the final moments, the final 14 minutes or 3 minutes or 4 minutes of a game. Now they're winning. Tulsa is 5-0 in the conference. They're 5-1 overall. Cincinnati's 6-0 in the conference, 8-0 overall. SMU's been ranked. They're 7-2. Houston is doing better. They're 3-3. Memphis Memphis was winning under Justin Fuente. Then they won for 4 years under Mike Norvell. Now they're winning with their new head coach, which is, it's amazing to see something like this. Because Memphis, again, when we look at a team like Memphis and some of these other teams out there in recent history, Temple's been able to do it. But when we look at these schools where they switch their coaches and they keep winning, Ryan Silverfield's in his first season at Memphis, and he's got the team at 5-2. Navy is 3-4, but they've done some good things this year. UCF is 5-3. Tulane is 5-5. You only have 3 teams in the entire conference, East Carolina, Temple, and South Florida, that are not going to a bowl game. Outside of that, Cincinnati's locked in. Tulsa is one one game away. SMU's locked in. Memphis is close. UCF is close. Tulane is close, and company. So there's a lot of good being played here. I wish people paid attention to it. I wish people respected it. I wish people saw what is truly here. And my hopes and my prayers is that they will as we move on. I'll tell you what's not there and who's not going anywhere anytime fast by any stretch of the imagination. And if people want to knock the American, well, you know what? You want to knock the American? Let's talk about the Big Ten and some of the teams in there. Michigan barely beat Rutgers, and they had to go overtime times 1,000. They had to do everything. They were trying to play a game that was going to start on Saturday and end on Monday to try and get a win over Rutgers. We'll talk about that in a second, though, because I got to get to another game, PJ. Penn State. Oh, they're ranked in the top 9 in the nation. You know how I feel about ranking teams at 0-0, not a preseason ranking. When teams were 4, 5, 6 weeks into the season, the Big Ten was getting put into the rankings. It was ridiculous. It was stupid. And it was disrespectful to the teams that were playing games. I'm not saying you can't put a team in the preseason because preseason nobody's played. But in a very unique year where so many teams had played and so many teams had not, you don't put them in there. And Penn State went from 9 to nowhere. They lost to Iowa at home in Penn State. How about this, PJ? They lose 41-21 on their home field. They are 0-5 on the season. They're playing at Michigan, who's been all over the place. They're playing at Rutgers, who's done some good things. And they're playing Michigan State, who defeated Michigan when they were a 20-plus point underdog. Penn State could go, I'm thinking they're probably going to go, what makes the most sense to me, 1-7. What are your thoughts on Penn State?
Oh, boy. Coach Franklin's got a real problem up there. Not only he's not playing good football, but there's also was a blurb came out, I think it was Friday before the games, where he consulted one of his students and told his students not to report this, whatever this incident was, to police. Don't say anything to police. And of course, that blew right up, and that probably didn't help him either. But you know, Franklin was supposed to be one of these really cerebral guys who was going to be the next Nick Saban. Well, Nick Saban will never go 0-5, that's for sure. Even if he had Liberty, for crying out loud. Liberty's playing well this year. But you know, Franklin's got a real problem. I think he's got a culture problem up there now too, because there's been a lot of problems with the team up there with sexual problems. And when this player said, Coach Franklin told me not to tell the police anything. That doesn't sound good, Daniel.
No, you know, it's just Penn State seems like they're all over the place right now, and none of it is a good place. It's unfortunate to see. It's something. something that you wouldn't intend on seeing. And you know, when you talk about things you don't anticipate, Papa Joe yelling into the microphone, "Go FSU," is also something that I never thought I'd hear in my life. So, what'd you say?
There's a good story coming out of that too, Daniel.
Yeah, go ahead. What is it?
Well, Dabo Sweeney was caught this morning, saying COVID-19 excuse for FSU nixing the game. Oh boy, Dabo really get the old dagger in the heart there.
Well, and but that's the thing is, you know, you think about that and you go, okay, well, the protocol, they couldn't agree on protocol. And, you know, I mean, I would venture to say that Clemson was going to win that game about 50-something to maybe 3. So, you know, I can understand people's concerns and their worries and their fears that, you know, okay, well, what if this is just a ploy to not have to play the game? But, I mean, geez. I mean, Florida State, by all stretches of the imagination, is not going anywhere this year. And so, I mean, I believe in Mike Norvell as a coach. I didn't think he should have left Memphis because he was doing great things at Memphis, and he was putting Memphis on the map. He was taking what Justin Fuente did and continuing it on, making it even better. So, you know, in my opinion, he should have stayed put. I didn't like the move to Florida State. I thought eventually it was not going to, you know, be great in his favor because they're going to expect him to win right away, and he's not. So, you know, that's how Florida State is. They want to win a national championship, which I respect, but the thoughts of some of those fans that they think that they're going to go from what they've been doing the last couple of years of winning a national championship, they're insane. That's like saying Syracuse has a chance of winning a national championship next year. So I don't get that part of it. But, yeah, I mean, it was kind of a weird message to get. That it was like the day of the game, and it said, that they couldn't agree on protocol. Well, you know what? I'll read it to you. I'll read it to you the direct, because we got sent an email. Those of us that cover the ACC, we got sent an email from the ACC regarding the game. So give me 1 second, and I'll bring it up for you. But to tell you exactly what we got, what the verbiage that we got from the ACC about why this game was not going to be played. So the Clemson-Florida State game that we're sitting here talking about this morning. So let me bring that up for you here. It says that, let me get here. So Clemson and Florida State, bring it up so we can address exactly what was said. It states that, where are we here? So, give me 1 second to pull this thing up. I want to make sure that I bring you the direct quote from the ACC. So, they announced their game times for after this, and that is not what I'm looking for. So, here it is. So, it says the Atlantic Coast Conference, basically, when we were looking at this matchup with Florida State and what was going on here to not play this game, and I want to get the actual excerpt here that I can bring up here for you. So for some reason I'm not finding it here, but I will. You know what we'll do? We'll take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back, I'll read this off and we can discuss it, PJ. But yeah, I mean the email that we got was very interesting about why the game was being held off. It was interesting verbiage. I'll put it to you like that on why the game was. And I think I might be able to, actually we might be able to do it before a fast break here, because we will take a fast break right after this, but I wanted to get to this, and there's so much stuff that we get from the ACC, it's insane. So here we go. So it says, the Atlantic Coast Conference announced today that the Clemson, and this is Saturday, that the Clemson at Florida State football game will be postponed. The game was originally scheduled to be played today, Saturday, November 21st at noon. The postponement follows the morning's game conference call, at which time both teams' medical personnel were unable to mutually agree on moving forward with the game. Both teams continue to adhere to the minimum outlined protocols of the ACC Medical Advisory Group report, which is available on the ACC.com. As was previously announced, the 2020 ACC football schedule model includes 11 games, 10 conference plus 1 non-conference, played over at least 13 weeks, with each team having 2 open dates. So the reasoning was the medical personnel were unable to mutually agree on moving forward with the game. And that's what makes things feel even more fishy to some people, is that, what does that even mean? How could they get to the morning of the game and then not figure out a way to move forward? Has thrown some people off. And then, obviously words that come out after that and thoughts that come out after that, with Dabo Swinney and what, I can understand his frustration, right? You get your team, you do what you got to do. You get there, you're ready to play the game, and you hear that they're not going to go forward because they can't mutually agree on what's going on. It just seems fishy. It seems strange. And, it's just kind of, I don't know. It seems kind of ridiculous to be in a situation like that. He said, now Dabo Swinney said, we had a heck of a trip to Tallahassee, had a breakfast in the parking lot and some meetings, had a little tent revival and came on back, end quote. He said this game was not canceled because of COVID. COVID was just an excuse to cancel the game. And to be honest with you, I don't think it has anything to do with their players. I have no doubt that their players wanted to play and would have played. And same with the coaches. To me, the Florida State administration forfeited the game. End quote. Those are some massive words coming from Dabo Swinney.
Absolutely. But they're going to wind up playing later on this year sometime. So what's going to happen to Florida State is that Clemson's going to be getting into their playoff mode later on this year, where Dabo's got his players playing a lot better at the end of the year so they can play well during the playoffs if they reach the playoff. And if Florida State thinks they're dodging them now, they better dodge them 3 or 4 weeks from now because they're going to be in some really, really poop. I'll tell you, really poop. It's too bad. But Mike Norvell, as you stated earlier, is a good coach. The reason he came from Memphis is I think they doubled his salary, Daniel. I mean, you can't throw away $2 or $3 million. I mean, you go from Memphis to FSU is probably from $2.5 million to $5 million. So what's the guy going to do? He's got to take the money, but he's a good coach. Look, Norvell will be fine. He's just got to find the right players. He's got to find his players, not the ones left over from Jimbo Fisher. So we'll see where that goes. But anyway.
That coming from Papa Joe here this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. A lot of stuff to get through here this morning. We got a few more games to talk about in college, and we'll shift to the NFL before, in just a little bit, we'll be joined by Ryan Blackwell of Syracuse Orange basketball history, Boeheim's Army head coach, as well as Liverpool boys basketball head coach here in our community of Central and Upstate New York. So giving back to our community a million times over with Syracuse basketball, Boeheim's Army, and the Liverpool Warriors. I am always, always thankful, grateful, and very much appreciating the fact that I get to spend my time on the air with Ryan Blackwell, who I consider a friend. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back, PJ and I will go through the rest of the games we want to discuss here in college football, then shift to the NFL before we get set for Ryan Blackwell. Right after this, where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on WakeUpCallDT.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT. We're hanging out here with PJ, Papa Joe hanging out here with us this morning where sports truly meets life. Normally with us on his Thursday hour, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time, but he's with us here on a Monday with the holiday obviously coming up this Thursday for Thanksgiving. So we moved PJ up 3 days to make sure that everybody got to hear from Papa Joe here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, wakeupcalldt.com, and on Facebook Live on facebook.com/live-now-dt, all inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios with 5 locations all throughout Central New York, the mobile cafe, and local delivery that will go right to your doorstep. No delivery charge for those of you that live in Onondaga County. So plenty of great stuff from Cafe Kubal, including the DT special pumpkin spice chai. Got my own drink there on site on location, and it is fantastic. And I feel like getting one today because your boy's a little chilly this morning. So with that being said, speaking of chilly, PJ, it's gotten ugly for some of these teams, but it takes 3 overtimes for Michigan to defeat Rutgers. We thought that Rutgers had a shot, and they did, and they pushed. Michigan wins the game 48-42. It takes them 3 overtimes. Just like I said with Indiana losing, even though they lost, I think that that game says something about them pushing Ohio State to the brink 42-35. In the same respect, but on the flip side, Michigan winning still says something negative about them. It took 3 overtimes to defeat Rutgers. Michigan, 3 extra periods just to get out of there alive to win 48-42. So Indiana loses, but they still look good. Michigan wins, and arguably, they're still terrifying their fan base.
They've been terrible all year long, Daniel. The Harbaugh, I don't think Harbaugh is going to last this latest one. I think that I didn't watch the game or hear anything about it because it wasn't important to me. But I did follow the overtimes and everything. So, but I think Michigan found a quarterback, so I think that kid's going to work out well for Harbaugh. If Harbaugh's even there, look, you can't coach places like Michigan or Syracuse or Florida State or someone like that and not win. You have to win. And Harbaugh is not winning. Not only that, he's getting the hell kicked out of him. So why, I'm talking about schools with a lot of money. Michigan, they can buy him out in a heartbeat. It won't cost them nothing. Probably petty cash. Right. So, look for Michigan to make a move. Harbaugh's a very emotional coach. I like that. But I don't think he has the talent level that Ohio State does and some of the other teams. So, good luck with that. I don't. I'm glad they won, but they're not going anywhere because of it. They may have found a quarterback, though.
Yeah, maybe they found a guy in McNamara, but, it's just one of those things that you 3 overtimes to defeat Rutgers, who's been in the basement. And granted, Greg Schiano's going to make them better, but wow. That's a giant wow to me by all stretches. I think it's a wow to the fan base. Illinois, Nebraska, PJ. Scott Frost decided to leave UCF. He cried that day. I was there at that game, the AAC championship game. They win that game. He is pink in the face. He's crying. And then I've never experienced this ever in my life, ever. And I was there. I did the post-game press conference with Scott Frost and the team. I asked Scott Frost a question. I went upstairs to the press box. I was writing my game story and going through some stuff. And we get told by their athletic communications department, hey, just wanted to let you guys know that Danny White, the AD, is going to be speaking with you all if you'd like to come downstairs. And an hour and a half after they win the game, within an hour and a half of them winning the game, we're downstairs at a press conference talking about how Scott Frost is gone and they're looking for a new head coach. That was one of the most surreal moments. It was like Scott Frost brought them to this high point, and then while you're still in the building, after a game, fans celebrating, confetti still flying, the feeling that the city of Orlando is even more alive, and we're over there talking about a new head coach. He decided to go to Nebraska, his alma mater, and it looked really hard for him to leave UCF. Nebraska has gone nowhere, PJ, and, even though he's an alum, even though he's trying, I don't know who can resurrect Nebraska football. What are your thoughts on Scott Frost, and did he make the right decision leaving, and could they be firing their alum if this thing doesn't turn around?
Well, this is the same situation with Norvell at Memphis. Let's face it, Frost wasn't making a lot of money at UCF. All of a sudden, his school, his alma mater school, calls him up and says, "We want you to come back to Nebraska, and we'll give you $5 million a year." What's the guy going to say? I mean, not only does he get a huge raise, he gets to go back to his alma mater. But with that being said, it's quite obvious that Scott Frost is overmatched. He's not recruiting well. The X's and O's are not up to snuff. He was a giant quarterback when he played for Nebraska. I remember watching him play. He has not translated his talent as a player and as a coach to his team. His team looks lost. This is, I don't know, the third year, I guess. I mean, it's not. He's not going anywhere. And talk about a big buyout. If Nebraska people are just as fervent as, say, Oklahoma State, who got killed by Oklahoma, Gundy, he's in a lot of trouble. So these guys make a lot of money. When you want to buy them out, you got to spend a lot of money. So don't be surprised that Scott Frost has to take a walk.
Yeah, and we look at some of this stuff that's going on right now, and we talk about buyouts and whatnot. Nick Saban's buyout is $36.8 million. I thought it was 60. I thought it was higher. It's not. The highest one right now in college football is Jimbo Fisher, believe it or not. If Texas A&M is to fire Jimbo Fisher, they would have to buy him out at $53.125 million. That's more than Dabo Swinney at Clemson, which is $50 million if they decide to try and buy him out. That to me is insane in the membrane money. That is some crazy, crazy dollars in this grand scheme of things. It's nuts. But I mean that's what we're looking at here right now, which I'm completely floored by as I'm going through this and I'm trying to, $50 million. Dino Babers, we found out it made a little over $3.2 million for his total pay, and his buyout is not on this list, but it's allegedly $17 million. But there's plenty of coaches around the country. Georgia Tech's is over $17 million. We're looking at California's is over $17 million. Iowa State's is over that. Florida State with Mike Norvell is over $19 million. Rutgers, Greg Schiano is 24 plus. If Rutgers can afford a 24 plus $0.6 million buyout, Syracuse, you got to find a way to figure. And I'm not saying they have to. I'm just making a mention here. Indiana's buyout for Tom Allen's higher. I'm just saying don't complain about $17 million when, how about that, PJ? Texas A&M has the highest buyout in the nation. They would have to pay Jimbo Fisher over $53 million if they want to get rid of him early.
Unbelievable. Jimbo has proved to be a top-flight coach. He's a great offensive mastermind. He's taken a Texas A&M team that really was dormant for a while, even under Sumlin, and it come right through. Beating Florida is no easy task, and they can say that they did it. And not only that, but they are ahead of Florida in the standings. So I don't think Texas A&M is anywhere near the team that they purport to be, and I don't think they're as good a team as Florida. But for that day, that game, that Saturday, they beat them, and they deserve to be ranked ahead of them. I don't know. They're not going to go anywhere with the championship, but who knows? But Jimbo Fisher is a good coach, and he made a super deal for himself. He took a Florida State program that was really floundering after Bobby Bowden. Yeah. Took it over, got it up to the heights where it's supposed to be, and just because he slipped up the last couple of years, he saw the writing on the wall. He was so pissed off with Florida State because they weren't spending any money on his program. They didn't build this, they didn't build that. He wanted more money for his assistants. They didn't give him that. Every time he turns around to want something, they said no. So, hell, Texas A&M calls up and said, Jimbo, we want you here for $7.5 million for 10 years. Gone.
Yeah, it's crazy. And this just in, we actually we had something come through, a note that came through here that I'm actually looking at right now. They wanted me to make mention that the buyout of me for Dan Tortora Broadcast Media is well above $53 million. So that's good to know. It's good to know, PJ. I don't know who would pay it. Hopefully nobody. But we're in good places right now, so that's good stuff. We got to get to the NFL quick before we get into Ryan Blackwell. So there's some games that we left on the table here. Of the ones that I can mention, Oregon, UCLA, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Coastal Carolina, App State, NC State, Liberty, LSU, Arkansas, Tulane, Tulsa. Those games is what's the one you want to make mention of? The one I have circled is that not only did Liberty never have a win against an ACC team ever in their history and got it this year at Syracuse. Not only they got it, but they got it on the road. Then they went to Virginia Tech and they got it on the road. Then they went to NC State and they almost had the trifecta this year. They lost to NC State at NC State in Raleigh, North Carolina, 15-14 in a very ugly score, baseball-looking score type of game. What are your thoughts on Liberty and any of these other games before we jump to the NFL?
I didn't think Liberty was much. I know you were popping them up a lot. Certainly, Hugh Freeze is an excellent coach, and he's saying he's not going to go anywhere. I mean, that's what I'm hearing on the reports and everything. But that they played NC State, but I picked NC State. I'm not sure. I think you stayed with Liberty, but I didn't think they could beat NC State this week, and they didn't. So they still got a lot to play for. They'll wind up in a major bowl somewhere. And if Freeze is telling the truth, he'll stay at Liberty, but they better spend some money on him.
Yeah, and they've signed him through 2026 mid-season to make sure that happens. PJ, we'll jump to the NFL now. The Saints defeated the Falcons 24-9. That was not with Drew Brees. That was with Taysom Hill at quarterback. Let's discuss this. The Saints getting a victory. Frustrating. I'm very happy for Taysom Hill, and it upsets me even more because Eric Dungy is one of those quarterbacks that if you let him in the NFL, he'd play all over the place. I think he just wants to play. Taysom Hill is one of those guys that's been able to do that. Taysom Hill, they'll utilize him wherever they need him. And in this game, he played quarterback. And in this game, they win 24-9. Shout out to the defense in New Orleans holding down the Atlanta Falcons, holding down Todd Gurley, holding the Falcons to 52 yards rushing, under 4 yards a carry. Todd Gurley only had 26 yards on the ground. They also held Julio Jones to 2 catches for 39 yards. Calvin Ridley didn't top 100 yards. Nobody did receiving. So, yeah, we give credit to Taysom Hill, but let me also give credit to New Orleans defense that we don't talk about a lot. And Taysom Hill in the game, 18 of 23 passing, 233 yards, 10 carries, 51 yards, led the team, 5.1 yards a carry, and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Taysom Hill did it all, and New Orleans got the win. 2 years in a row, New Orleans had Teddy Bridgewater last year with Breeze out. They won. Now they have Taysom Hill with Breeze out, and I know it's only one game. Teddy did a lot, but they're winning in this one as well. What can you say about Taysom Hill, this jack of all trades, guy that probably wanted to play quarterback but is willing to just play wherever he's got to play, who made it happen, got over 100 yards for Michael Thomas, moved the ball around, spread the ball around, ran the ball well, and for a guy that people may not consider to be a quarterback, he went 18 of 23. I know he did it against a bad Atlanta Falcons defense, but he still did it. He won the game. He still came through. He still found his receivers, got his timing down, and I give Taysom Hill a lot of credit. He might be the story of Week 11 in the NFL.
Absolutely. This was a good game to watch. It was a fun game to watch. I know the meatball over here, he's a big Drew Brees fan and a big New Orleans fan. And Taysom Hill, I swear, when he's under center and he drops back the pass, he looks so much like Drew Brees when he did that. The motions were the same. And this guy's got a rifle. I mean, this guy's a beast, Daniel. This kid is big and he's fast. When he scooted around left end, I didn't think he had any shot to score that touchdown on that 13-yard run. And he outrun 2 linebackers and a defensive back to get to the corner of the end zone. I thought he had no chance to get there. Then he quarterback sneak for one. Look at he's an exceptional athlete. And New Orleans is not stupid. They also spent $21 million on him for 2 years to make him believe that he can play quarterback. And poor Jameis. Oh, poor Jameis. Oh, I hope your buddies out there listening. Jameis, I don't think we even saw Jameis on the TV. He's supposed to be carrying around a clipboard, but he wasn't doing that. Oh, Jameis. But anyway, Jameis, you got to be ready to play because if this kid gets hurt, you got to step in there. But Taysom Hill was the real deal. He found his receivers correctly, made the right Thomas coming back is big, huge. So, I mean, I think their defense sacked Matt Ryan 8 times or 6 times or something like that. So it makes the offense look a lot better when you got a defense like that. So he played well, and he's a real man. I'll tell you, he's a real man.
Yeah, a fantastic game for the New Orleans Saints in this matchup, and Papa Joe making mention of the sacks in this game that New Orleans had. We talk about the lack of defense for Atlanta, but you don't really think of defense when it comes to New Orleans, and New Orleans was able to hold it down and hold the Falcons under 10 points in the game. And we look at the statistics of it all and the sacks that were there, and there were 8 sacks on Matt Ryan for a loss of 36 yards. So big stuff for the New Orleans Saints. Another game I want to get to, PJ, Andy Dalton returns to the Dallas Cowboys, the backup quarterback, and he throws 3 touchdowns to 1 interception, 22 of 32. Ezekiel Elliott gets over 100 yards, almost 5 yards a carry. Amari Cooper has life again. CeeDee Lamb's starting to get more consistent here in the hopes that he'll be a good fantasy football player. He scores. The ball gets out to Dalton Schultz. He gets a touchdown. Zeke gets a touchdown through the air to go with his 100-plus yards rushing. And they go on the road and defeat Minnesota 31-28. Hold up and hold the phones and hold the horses, folks. The NFC East that could be won by Papa Joe and I could win the NFC East if we started playing right now. But the Dallas Cowboys are 3-7, and nobody's out of the NFC East. Nobody's out of it. So Dallas still has life, and Andy Dalton brings it to them. The NFC East is within reach right now, and this is how sick it is. Every team in the NFC East is 3-7, except for Philadelphia, that's 3-6-1. The Dallas Cowboys very well could lead the division in a week. What are your thoughts on them defeating Minnesota?
That's scary. Well, Jerry Jones doesn't have to sell his big mega yacht yet. He's okay. Andy Dalton's a class guy, good quarterback. Certainly was a good quarterback for Cincinnati for many years. Is a capable backup to Prescott now, and he shows it. Andy Dalton's a smart guy. Yeah. He's not physically gifted like the rest of these guys. He's not a Taysom Hill, can run all over a place and throw on the run and stuff. He's just a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he sees. He knows how he's coached, and he knows how to win.
PJ, final moments here of having you here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Cubal studios. The Steelers stay undefeated at 10-0, defeating the Jaguars 27-3, which we saw happening. The Chargers defeat the Jets, and no matter how close the Jets are, the Jets find a way to lose. The Steelers find a way to win. Steelers 10-0, Jets 0-10. Thoughts on these bookend teams? One of them at the top, and one of them far, far, far down to the bottom. I said they were the worst team in football going into the NFL, and they have proven me 100% right, unfortunately, for Jets fans. 10-0 and 0-10. What are your thoughts on the Steelers on one end and the Jets way, way over on the other one?
Well, I tell you a little quote that I heard Frank Gore said to the press. He says, I ain't going out like this, which means 0-16. I ain't going out like this. So expect Frank Gore to puff up his team a little bit. Anyway, the Steelers did exactly what we said they were going to do. They just mauled the poor kid, mauled the offensive line. I thought that Jacksonville could maybe score a touchdown, but they threw some reads at the kid. The kid threw 4 interceptions. 2 of them were on tipped passes, so really not his fault. But they just weren't competitive. I mean, Chark played a good game. It's disheartening. You know, there's only so much Marone can do. We keep saying the same thing every week in and week out. You know, the Pittsburgh Steelers are for real. Mike Tomlin's a good coach.
Yeah.
He knows how to treat men. And Roethlisberger looks like a big oak tree back there. I swear to God, he doesn't go down, for Christ's sake. They can knock him and sock him sideways. He'll do something, flip it, or just underhanded or something, somehow just to go ball out. I mean, the plate is still like 35 passes. I mean, you know, the kids played hard, and I know there was another little blurb that I read saying that Jacksonville's entire roster is under 25 years old and is the youngest in the league. So there you go.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to see with Jacksonville. And at this point they're going to have to shake something up because the fact that just a few seasons ago they were 4 points away from going to the Super Bowl, or technically 5 because they were down by 4. That feels like that was 115 years ago. So, hopefully things will get better for them Jaguars, but as of right now, it's been a tumultuous time. Final note here, PJ, two games, I should say, went to overtime here, and one of those games that went into overtime before we jump into our conversation with Ryan Blackwell, we look at the Titans-Ravens, 30-24 Titans. That game went back and forth, and then I saw the end of the Colts game where Blankenship, the rookie kicker, was able to boot it through 34-31 to defeat the Packers. Wisconsin had to get hit twice this week. They got hit by Northwestern, then they got hit by the Colts. The Colts are in fantastic place right now, and the Colts are looking like a mighty fine team in this moment in time, which is pretty awesome. If you're a Colts fan, you're feeling really good, really good about yourself. The Colts are 7-3 right now. The Titans won, the Colts won. It's coming down to the stretch. You and I said it, that this was going to be a thing that we could anticipate happening, and that they were going to go up again, that they were going to vie for the division of the AFC South at the end of it all. What are your thoughts on the Titans and the Colts, the AFC South being represented very well as the Titans defeat the mighty Ravens and the Colts at home find a way to defeat the Packers, both in overtime?
Well, the Packers certainly didn't play their best in the second half. They had a good halftime lead. Rutgers was there. The problem in the third quarter was that I think Indianapolis had the ball for something like 12 out of the 13 minutes, pounding the hell out of the defensive line of Green Bay, and they didn't respond. They couldn't stop them. And then you had to have Rodgers do his magical stuff just to make the game close. And they could have won it. It was 4th and 1, down inside the 20-yard line of. They could have kicked the field goal and tied the game, but for some reason, they called a play where it called for Rodgers to pass the ball out of the backfield to Jones, and it was incomplete. And Rodgers is shaking his head, saying, "Why did you call something like that?" That was maybe. I don't think he'd audible it. When you got a good running back there, and it's 4th and 1, you're about to win the game. You're going to get it. I was positive that they were going to score a touchdown and win the game, but that didn't happen. So, and the other guy, Texas and Baltimore. Tennessee and Baltimore. Tennessee, we know, plays tough defense. Mike Vrabel used to be with the Patriots, knows how to play good defense. This was a good game. Lamar Jackson hasn't been himself for the last month. He can't win a game by himself. The run that Derrick Henry went on to win the game was a thing of beauty. All of a sudden, you see this big, tall, goofy guy come darting through the line. He veers out to the right. There's arms flailing every which way. And he emerges from the pile and outsprints the guys to the end zone on a 29-yard run. This guy is a beast. He is a real beast. And, I guess Harbaugh, the other Harbaugh, got pissed off about what the Titans did before the game. The guys got around the insignia in the middle of the field. Tennessee guys were running, starting to stomping on it and things like that. Oh, boy, Harbaugh didn't like that. He went up and started chinning with some of these guys, and the referees had to pull him away. So that Jimbo got knocked twice. He lost his insignia, and he lost his game to a brutal running back.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where Derrick Henry, he did it toward the end of the season, this past season, when he was rushing for almost 200 yards in a game back to back. So there's a lot of good to come from Derrick Henry. I'm happy that they got him off the franchise tag and put him where he was supposed to be. We're giving him the extension. PJ, we talked about a lot of stuff. Speaking of extension, we had the show and a half here this morning of this conversation with so much to go through, talking about college football and the NFL. Last thing to ask you, PJ, as Ryan Blackwell is here on deck to come on to the broadcast to speak with us about Syracuse as well as Liverpool and so much more. What are you thankful for this holiday season as we moved you from Thursday to 3 days earlier just for this week to make sure that everybody got their Papa Joe fix and got you here on the show? So what are you most thankful for this year?
Oh, I want to end to this coronavirus stuff. I know we're going to have a vaccine coming pretty soon. Myself being a senior citizen and a disabled senior citizen, I'm probably going to be in the upper echelon of people that are going to be getting a vaccine. But I want to see our nation mend because of the very divisive presidential election, also a very divisive COVID. I'm sort of thankful for my soon-to-be, hope-to-be, want-to-be better health. I have an appointment on this coming Wednesday where there's going to be a different treatment for my legs. So I'm hoping that's going to come out good, and that's good. I'll tell you about it. And we got the meatballs going to be here for Thanksgiving. So it'll just be the three of us.
Yeah.
MT she's not letting me go anywhere, so I got to do what I got to do here. So I'm good there. Say hello to Debbie and Ralph for us.
I will. That coming from Papa Joe. Happy Thanksgiving. And one of the things I'm most thankful for today, tomorrow, yesterday, and always is you, Papa Joe. So thank you. I'll talk with you soon.
Right, bye.
That coming from PJ here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We'll take a very quick step aside. When we come back, we will be joined by Ryan Blackwell for a conversation to remember. That special comes up right after this.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spit our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have at any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.